Hey, Chris.
Hi. Hey.
Hey, listeners and viewers. We are we're putting together a contemplation club membership known as the Compass, the Golden Path Compass, but it's actually really just called the Compass because it's the participation and practice of contemplation. And yeah, we've had like a couple of opportunities now to facilitate some containers that were practicing teaching gene keys. The first one we did was a few years back. It was liberated leadership. So we led a Pearl sequence contemplation container. I think it was back in 2023, I want to say, early 2023. And then last year we did cracking the codes of codependence, which was specifically for these processes around how to deepen into the ancestral nervous system and the elements of the survival nervous system as it shows up in the process of contemplation, as well as the yin or the feminine embodiment and the willingness to go through that experience. And I just remember both of us kind of saying, as we've been working with people in Gene Keys, like, we really need to start a contemplation club where we can all just practice this consistently, this walking the golden path, this applying this beautiful process of contemplation to life. And I especially love doing this in this way where as the group comes together, the group holds the field of contemplation together. We all start to weave in new ways. And so I contemplate in my life, and I know you do, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but we're really excited to invite anybody that wants to be a part of this. And that can be, you can be new to the Gene Keys, you can have never done the Gene Keys and want to try it out, or you can have like all of the programs and just want to be a part of a group of people that want to practice in it. So yeah, I'd love to know, like, did you have a chance to kind of contemplate for a few minutes how you contemplate? Like, was something's really kind of bugging you in your life, or there's some energy that's showing up that could be alchemized? Are you aware of your process?
Yeah, should we define contemplation
Yeah,
first?
that's a great
Oh,
idea. Yeah.
and then thank
Yeah.
you. And then yes, I'd be happy to share sort of my variation. So contemplation is usually kind of connected to two related but distinct processes. One of which would be more concentration-based techniques. So this would be like a mantra would be a classic example where you have a sacred word and you say it over and over and over again. And it's meant to create a concentrated form of attention. And then there's meditation techniques that are more open awareness techniques, like probably most famously for most is like Vipassana or mindfulness type techniques, where you don't have a specific concentrated focus. You try to let your attention be broader and wider and try to rest into the present moment. And then contemplation is sort of this other, uh, sort of forgotten sibling, as it were, of the family here, and is kind of the what do you do for the rest of the time when you're not in a mantra space or in a meditation mindfulness space, like when you're off the mat, as it were. In other words, life. And contemplation really involves the idea that we live a question or a question lives us. And so that question for someone might be, what is it to really live with fundamental joy in life? It's a question that obviously is not like what's one plus one or, what's the weather going to be tomorrow or something, but a question that's meant to evoke a different state of our being and requires us to slow down and to reflect and to listen and to start to undergo, as you were saying, this kind of transformative process. It's a question that catalyzes or ignites um, transformation in our being. It's meant to do that. Is there any, is that clear? Any thoughts you had on that one or
Yeah, thank you.
contemplation or your sense of contemplation?
It's that's actually how Richard Rudd lays it out in the book too, is like he's like the far side being like this like meditation. And when I first came to this, I was like, oh, I know meditation because I practiced for quite a while. This idea of objective sitting with something. So I'm just going to watch my thoughts. I'm not going to participate in my thoughts, and I'm going to observe, and I'm really not going to feel anything. In fact, if I feel anything or I think anything for a long time, I was like failing. I was like, oh no, I'm doing it wrong. I should totally be neutral and just be observing. And so that at times was quite magical. It actually, with a lot of practice, became quite a beautiful experience at times. Um, and then the other one, concentration, was like, I'm going to figure it out, right? There's a problem and something's bugging me. And it's like, there's a solution in this, and my mind needs to come up with the logical way through me not experiencing whatever I'm experiencing now because I've solved it. And so when Richard Rudd proposed, actually, there's this contemplation that you were just beautifully sharing, that could be a weaving of the two. That to me felt really good, and I started practicing it because of reading his book, The Art of Contemplation, which he says is the most powerful book he's written, the most practical tool for many, many people, arguably. And there's all of the ways that that's laid out within the book. And what was missing for me was this sort of emotional alchemy part that we came to a lot with cracking the codes, and a lot of the work that I've done with you as my coach in this world of like, and the emotional body has this built-in language that speaks through the soul speaks through this, and there's this intelligence that's wanting to bring you further into the depths of your human experience. And I hadn't really woven those together until I started working with you. And so yeah, I'm really excited now because we put together a bunch of practices for people, as well as just we can, as we move through the golden path, we're going to start right away. This starts in October, so October 20th, this membership starts. And then we're going to be going alongside the golden path that the Gene Keys is offering with Richard Rudd in the book, The Sage. So all through 2026 into 2027, through the activation, through the Pearl, and through the Venus and through the Pearl. So it's a little bit of an epic journey. I've been calling it the Fellowship of the Compass. And we all get to go on this beautiful meandering journey together. But yeah, how do you notice yourself contemplating? How do you experience your process like currently in your life?
Hmm. Yeah, I particularly in relationship to the gene keys, I love the the idea of the bandwidths, the frequencies for each gene key, and the word for each one carrying a very specific kind of tone. So for me, it's very much a feeling of like I pulled a card just before we were kind of talking. It was 37, and the gift is equality, and the city is tenderness. And for me, a contemplation in that case would be just to take a moment, pause, and then can I feel like the tone of equality? And if so, then for me, it becomes this. I might notice it's either kind of too revved up to get to the emotional body side that you were naming. Like I might get like, whoa, oh, this feels, or if I start to feel like real clench or fogginess, or I'm like wanting to kind of like go like this, like that's too much. I don't want to feel that. I just want to be able to get to a place through the just being with it and welcoming it and staying with it till it feels just really flowing and neutral, like a nice state of equanimity is a really important marker for me. So if that's in this case equality, or then into the sort of essence or city layer of tenderness, again, do I feel tenderness and it's like my heart's on my sleeve and it's way too tender and I feel like way, way too raw? Or am I alternatively feeling like, I don't want to really feel tender? Or can I feel tender, but also like a real spaciousness and ease with that tenderness? And so for me, it's always kind of tracking that sense of, is it feeling spacious, grounded, and easeful in the correct tone?
That's not what it's like for me.
Good. Well, because there's so many different ways that people are gonna go
Yeah.
through it. So it's good to hear different styles.
Yeah, and that's why it's so nice to have a fellowship or a group of people that are like, well, here's some of the elements that are alive for me, and here's some of the ways that I'm currently contemplating. And I have found that over the years, it's definitely changed. One of the big sort of leaps from what it was, which was almost like sort of self-help contemplation. Like the style was like, I am broken. I need to fix this problem. I need to come into a peaceful relationship with it somehow. And so I'm going to steep in it and figure it out, so to speak. And that didn't really offer me the same amount of freedom that I can experience now in contemplation. And the bridge for me was I started to come to a space where I could befriend, where I was noticing within the shadow there's like a blame energy or a heat energy or a yang energy that was like projecting of like, well, this happened because of this other person or this experience that I had or this, outer world expression where the energy was going up and out. Like I could feel my body being like into story, into person outside of my control. And you can even see it in my face. Like my body would take on this like up and over and out. And then the other energy was the avoidant or the yin or the pattern that was like, I don't want to see this, or I don't know what I am relative to it. So I'm collapsing next to it. I can feel my energy go down and get kind of wet and sort of have this feeling of what I like to call is like the cringe, like that yin, like, oh, I don't want to see this sort of. So what that offered me was a space where I could find that there's an in between the two. There's an in between the over yin and there's an in between the over yang. And somewhere within that is the way I thread myself into whatever the gift of this is. So that sort of became this place of like, I am this gift. I know my being to be this expression of this gift, but can I just hold my center in this moment? And in all of the occasions, even sort of in the beginning, it's shown to me. It's like it's shown to me when I consciously show up to meet it, and then the gift arises. It's just that space of being willfully the one that's like, oh, this is happening, pendulate this way. Oh no, this is happening, pendulate this way, and really catching it. And then the other thing that I have found that works amazingly for me in contemplation is that I need to dance or move my body in some way because I have twos in my body. In my design side is where I have the twos. So that space is how I start the process. And if the process isn't starting in a meaningful way and I'm getting stuck falling down or projecting out, then it usually means that I need to come into movement first. So it's almost like I need to plug into the consciousness that's in my body so that I can tune my instrument to be with the process. So yeah, depending on how that shows up in different people's profiles and how that, just shows up with our environment and, our different energy types, whether you're into the human design system or not, those are all parts that we'll be able to weave in as well. So yeah, yeah. And I'm just really excited to develop a community around this. I'm really looking forward to having a group of people that want to participate in that longer journey. It's only $64 a month, appropriately chosen. And there's some learning and there's some practice and there's a great sweetness in coming together. There's a tenderness in coming together in a community in this. So I sure hope that whoever finds this and it reaches them and they want to know more, they reach out.
Hmm. I'm
Anything else you
excited
want to
too.
share?
Yeah, just thank you. That was beautiful to hear you describe your process. Yeah, I think just to emphasize something you're naming, which is that to be on one's individual journey, but to feel the deep sense of communion and everybody's going their own, in their own unique paths, but there's a coalescing and a uniting orientation that's not conformist. It allows for so much room for diversity, like we were just saying, even in terms of between us, how contemplation works. And yet there's the common theme of contemplation itself as an art and a practice and a way of life that's really empowering.
Yeah,
And as you said, really sweet and magical and mysterious and beautiful and but also practical.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm so
incredibly
excited
practical.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredibly practical way to gradually refine life to be so much more beautiful and sweet. And, the outcome is more love, more health, more ease. Just, yeah, it's a gentle tool that yields incredible benefits. And as I'm just saying this, I'm realizing that not everybody maybe has met either one of us before. So I'm going to invite you to just briefly give people a little bit of like who you are, how you came to this knowledge, and then a little bit about your authority. And then I'll do the same and we'll wrap up there.
Mhm. Yeah, so hi, I'm Chris. We're doing this in a fun, I like it that we're going in a non-linear, the future's calling back to the, so I'm Chris, yeah, and I've been started originally on the spiritual path pretty intensely in my late teenage years, so that was a while ago now. And it was heavily oriented to the spiritual side, let's say, to what I would consider to be more the kind of universal side. But in the process, lost connection to my own compass, to a sense of my own uniqueness or soulfulness in this process. And over a period of time, whether it was learning about the language of emotions and the language of the nervous system, and then the language of the code of life and the gene keys, these become all ways for me of getting back in touch with the part of me that is both unique but also in vast, interconnected relationality with an as all life and wanting to live in just really beautiful harmony and peace with each other, with myself, as much as I can with life. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I found this to be such a funny question because I feel like as far as my authority goes, well, it's I have a long practitioner background. So originally it was very physical massage therapy, and I used to work with animals quite a bit in my young life. Grew up on a farm in the country and spent most of my time not with people, but instead with animals and in nature. And so I found people to be quite intense for the first part of my life. And anybody that knows my profile will like immediately recognize this 6-2 theme of like a lot of experiential pain in the beginning of life, and then an integration phase, and then this expression of bringing it all together. And so during this integration on the roof phase, it's been everything from leaving my practitioner um, registration that I was working as a massage therapist for 20 years, developing my capacity as a medicine woman, and then becoming a mentor for other shamans to move through the Four Directions medicine wheel, and then weaving that with the gene keys and the human design system that I found about 5 years ago, and being able to find that there's these beautiful collaborations between the nervous system that I learned through massage therapy and osteopathic medicine, and how the nervous system is in a relationship with our soul system or our hologenetic profile, and then how, as a shaman, we can consciously navigate these perceptual states. And so I really love to support people in a multitude of ways of looking at how they're just such magical beings, and that all of this is this contemplative alchemy opportunity that we have to really claim our holy existence would be probably the best way to describe it. So I look forward to meeting those who want to jump on board with us. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you. And so.